but it's a pretty nice service. Soon will be. I was going to say we should be conscious of our screen share. Libsyn, which I think we'll use to syndicate the webcast, is let's say it's most cost efficient if we do audio only. So, because storage of video raises the cost quite a bit.
Right. Yeah, I know. And someone was saying, you should just do a podcast. Then people can just listen. I'm like, I know, but we're showing really cool things on screens. So I'm not sure what the best approach is, Mike.
Well, we'll keep the YouTube live stream, and that'll always be available. And then, of course, the webpage will have the show notes and things like that. But
yeah.
And you have a CLE today. I wanted to hear, you said cannabis law, I think.
Yeah. So that should be pretty interesting. I've only seen the outline, but apparently there's quite a bit of confusion. And I think our speaker is going to talk about edibles mostly, gummies and things
Is the speaker bringing any, or is it?
The thing about a virtual CLE is you just don't get those scopes. But
apparently, recipes or
right, a lot of that's being regulated hyper locally now, and so from city to city, you have these differences. And so I think she's going to talk about some proposed either statutory or regulatory changes that could help provide some clarity. And that maybe I don't know, if you go out in the street, like you don't see dispensaries, and it's not clear where you can buy what is apparently legal these days. So it'll be interesting.
Who's your speaker?
Her name is Susan Burns. She's one we pulled out. We always do just a little survey after each CLE and ask, do you have a topic you would like to see presented, and do you want to present? And she said, I think cannabis law is really important, and I want to present. So we'll see. She's a bit of an unknown to me personally. But it looks like a great outline, really practical.
Topic, yeah. Those free CLEs that the library offers, or is that
Yep, the third Thursday of each month we do a free CLE. There's no pre-registration required. We always get credit. I have to double check and make sure we got credit for this one. We try to do at least a couple of ethics and elimination of bias credits a year, because I know those can be difficult for people to get
a hold of.
Yeah.
That elimination of bias credit is not an easy one to acquire necessarily from the board, is it?
Yes, I've been rejected for a few of my attempts. Well, I had a man, this was just as the pandemic hit, who gave an interesting talk on alternative dispute resolution in traditional Somali culture, which I thought was super interesting, very relevant for anyone with Somali clients in the US to understand what that traditional way of dealing with conflict was. So I thought it was just transparent on the face that this would be elimination bias credit. And I sent it off, and they're like, you never said how this would.
The application spurs us off to a couple of resources that it's got to meet. There's some guidelines, and I don't remember off the top of my head what they are, but there's documentation of what the goals are meant to accomplish. You have to refer to those.
Exactly.
I found.
And you have to, I think what they would like, what would be easiest and clearest would be to, if in the outline for the presentation it said, and at this point we will tell lawyers, hey, this might, you might have a bias in this area, and here's how you can eliminate it in your practice of law. But, equity and disparities issues are never that simple. There's never one instruction that's going to cure what ails our country. So
I know, and we haven't had any discussion, as far as I'm aware, just locally. I mean, maybe at the bar association, there's a lot going on in the local community, so it's entirely possible I just haven't been aware of it. But I'd like to be involved in a conversation about what those goals are, right? I mean, do those make sense? What communities are they meant to serve?
Right.
I have to say, I've only done the application, and I mean, they didn't just parrot the language. I was earnest in my application,
Right.
But I mean, without question, just because I wanted the credit, right? I didn't think about whether or not these were the right goals, and I think that's something worth talking about.
It for sure is. And I'm sympathetic to the CLE board, because I think people were trying to get elimination of bias credits for some pretty attenuated reasons, in the past. So,
it's okay to make us work for it a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to that. Our next month's CLE, I think, will be interesting. It's on the current state of eviction law.
Great.
Which landlord, tenant, and eviction. And there's this department in Hennepin County. Do you know about it? It's called Adult Representation Services. And it's like kind of like a public defender, but for civil matters that have really substantial consequences for people involved. So they help with people who are being placed under guardianship and want to resist it. They do eviction work. I think they do termination of parental rights. Non-custodial parents, child protection, those kinds of things that the public defender's office doesn't qualify for because they're not criminal, but they have such life-altering consequences that the counties made a commitment. They have this whole department of attorneys who will help Hennepin County residents.
Interesting. So this is an agency. This isn't like a nonprofit law firm.
No, and it's not really a separate agency. It's a county department.
I see. Interesting.
And I'm not entirely sure, I guess, how it's funded. It just came about 4 years ago as, I think, kind of a pilot project, and now they're a permanent department, and they're really anxious to get the word out that they exist. So
look at this team, man. That's awesome.
I know. And so someone from their office is doing our eviction CLE in November, and then another attorney from that office is doing an immigration CLE for us in December. So we're pretty jazzed about working with this department. Yeah.
Immigration is fun too. It's such a broad topic. There's so many different.
We should talk about that one day, about immigration resources, because the Department of Homeland Security, the formerly INS or ICE, or I don't know what it's called anymore, they have a lot of material on their website, but that's a Byzantine kind of regulatory mess. And there again, the stakes are super high.
Yeah.
People, you make a mistake on that paperwork and it can be really difficult to unwind it. So
during the Trump administration, we have these images of the attorneys flocking to airports and doing sit-in representations and just kind of looking into and it's complicated subject matter.
It really is. Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase Trump bump for law schools.
Yes. Yeah.
That event, law schools saw enrollment go up by, I don't know, the former dean of Mitchell Hamlin once told me it was like 13%, or so. It was like some huge number.
People really wanted to make some change for sure.
All right, we're at the top of the hour.
Hey, here we are.
I'm Mike Carlson with Great Paper Legal.
I'm Karen Westwood with the Hennepin County Law Library.
Welcome to Gray Matters. We're here to address the question, what is the most interesting legal research question of the week? I'm sharing my screen here, and for folks who might be listening in, I'll do my best to give proper descriptions. Karen, I had my topic, but before I launch into mine, was there one that came up between now and the last time we chatted?
We had a couple of questions that were kind of interesting, but I don't know that they produced any spectacular research insight. Although one was a woman who came in person who had a workers' comp issue in Seattle earlier and wanted to appeal an administrative decision. And I ended up, after searching around, calling my colleagues at the King County Law Library to learn that they have a little packet for appealing certain kinds of administrative rulings, but to appeal a workers' comp decision from the Department of Labor and Industry is very difficult, and there's no form to use. And so
really?
I found that interesting to just think about, and we see that everywhere we go, that what people who aren't attorneys want, and attorneys want it too, frankly, is a form to do the thing that they want to do.
That's interesting. Yeah. I
mean, there are forms that so broad,
Yeah, and you can design forms for that kind of thing that are consumer facing. There are all of these, and I've been working in this area for a while, and it's super exciting, right? I think these low code or no code services allow attorneys to build applications. That's precisely the kind of thing that people get jazzed about, because they can send a link to the client and say, fill this out, I'll do a quick review, and it's not going to be big revenue generator, but they get to deliver justice. It's
right. And it's so frustrating for people, because I think what we need is a popular TV show that talks about administrative law, because no one understands. They come in like, look, my workers' comp was denied, and so I appealed it, and then you appeal up and then out into district court. At the end of the day,
exhaust your remedies. And
she didn't know what she was appealing. I was like, wait a minute, I find a court case. I think you're in court. Oh, I thought I was doing a Bureau of Industries, BIIA appeal. They all have these acronyms in different states. And it's something interesting to think about both from a research point of view and an access to justice point of view.
I will also. You said you called Kings County over in
King County Law Library. Yeah, they're super out there.
Yeah, I will tout your profession. I mean, calling the librarian is the best choice. I mean, I cannot tell you. I've got the Law Library of Congress, and the response time wasn't 30 minutes. It was 3 days, but the spectacular response I got from some anonymous person in the international law division was, and it just, call anybody listening, call your librarian. They're amazing support. The
and I want to tell you, for sure, the State Law Library here in Minnesota. You might catch one of us, in a frazzled mood or something, but I will say,
I don't believe you.
We live for these research questions. That's the fun part for us, is trying to help tease out something. And especially with attorneys who can really understand what we're giving them, we can get a really good back and forth. And
they appreciate your effort. I'm guessing. I hope. I don't know. What is the let's see. I mean, you're dealing with the public. You must see all kinds of
well, we can't find what isn't there, but if it's there, we will do our best to find.
That is a topic for another day. I've been thinking about that one too. I haven't had that question in a while, but how do you prove that it doesn't exist? How is it not a thing? Or a unique question of law? I think that's one for another day. My most interesting question of the week was conversation with a colleague about average rates for law firm rates, and how difficult that is to research, right? If you jump onto the local community platform and ask fellow attorneys, what do they charge for a service? You're shut down right away because of concerns over antitrust. They don't want it to be looking like you're having a conversation and setting rates, right? So it's hard to kind of get a feel, and it's not a gas station. You can't drive down the road and find out what, and it's not on the websites.
And exactly. You can't go to the website, as a person who wants to engage an attorney. It feels like some of those other products where, you want to buy a hot tub, you're just trying to get an idea of what it might cost. And they're like,
right.
Call for a free quote. Yeah, I don't want that. I just want to know. So, yeah.
So my first resource I'm going to offer is from Clio. Clio each year, they just had their conference in October this month. And each year they put out the Clio Legal Trends Report, which is this item here, but I don't know how many people know about this item, which is the legal rates calculator. So what Clio does is they anonymize and aggregate their data, and so they have an idea of what attorneys are charging and how much time they spend billing, and it's always super interesting to see. But it also gives you an idea for your jurisdiction and practice area what people are charging, and that's just a super simple.
That's great.
And choose Minnesota, lawyer and the non-lawyer rate. This is it was actually the non-lawyer rate I was arguing with my colleagues about. Someone was saying, I'm going to charge $50 an hour for I pay my paralegals $50 an hour, and I think that's pretty high. And I said, I don't think that's right. I don't think $50 an hour for paralegal is a high rate. Now, the non-lawyer rate that they charge to the client is probably different than what they pay the attorney, I'm guessing, but I'll grab lawyer here in practice area, say business hourly rate. You have to put in what you think your hourly rate might be. So if you give it a little bit of information, but then it tells you what your estimated rate is compared to the average in your jurisdiction, which is pretty amazing, right? 20% lower. So pretty close in Minnesota, and then it shows you across the United States for each state how it works, and then across each practice area as well in the state of Minnesota. Super simple tool.
Is this something you need to subscribe to Clio to access?
No.
Really, this is just out freely on the web.
Super duper marketing stuff, right? So the Clio Legal Trends Report, you can also download. You're going to get a call from Clio, probably. Right?
Sure. Gosh, I have to tell my librarian colleagues about this, because we get this question once in a while. I was telling you, and sometimes it's from non-lawyers who are in some kind of litigation where attorney's fees are at issue, and they're just gobsmacked at the attorney's fees that are being requested by the other side, because they don't have a clear idea of what people are charging. So this would be super helpful.
You have an alert set up in Westlaw for legal research, just the phrase, and it's really boring. I almost never read it because it's all about a fee dispute, or what did they charge? Should it be granted attorney's fees? So they're boring cases. I'm not sure how much I've learned with that alert, but
I did just go on Google yesterday, Mike, when we were talking about this, and did something like what's an average, hourly attorney billing rate or something. And I came up with some report that was very generic, that basically said most lawyers charge somewhere between $100 and $300 per hour, depending on, where they are in the country and what type of law they practice. So I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, but this is so much better.
Yeah, and I think that the full Clio report has the PDF version. I'll have to scroll down to the bottom, just in the summary. I think there's even a map on this one that answers that. Sorry for the scrolling. No, it's a table.
Oh, nice, but really interesting. Yep. And non-lawyers would be paralegals, but also a couple of states, including Minnesota, have that status where paralegals, what are they called? The law practitioners?
Yes, I think that's right. I'm forgetting. Enhanced paralegals.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it probably includes that as well.
This was for a while the money shot. They've added items to the utilization, realization, and collection rate. Utilization, 33%. What's interesting this year, and what I don't know is that this is higher, and they said since 2016, this number has always been going up. So the utilization rate is how many hours in a typical 8-hour day do you actually bill, and it's 33% of the time. And if realization rate accounts for write-offs, and the collection rate is what you actually end up collecting.
Right.
You end up, billing about 2 hours a day. Which seems low, but anybody who's running a business kind of gets that, I think.
Right.
But this number has been going up since they've been doing, and this year it took a substantial, like a 3% increase or something. They said, I can't remember. I'll have to go back to see if I can find the numbers in here, but it's like an extra for an attorney charging $350 an hour, whoever that might be, is earning an extra $12,000 a year because of these incremental increases in the utilization rate.
That's super interesting.
People using practice management software, are they just better at process? I don't know what the reason behind it is. Still, I don't.
Do they have more time because they're not commuting anymore?
Yeah, it may be. And that was the subject of this year's report. Is that no surprise? Is like nobody. It was interesting, and I talked to an attorney from Florida yesterday. He said, but location still matters, and that was a point in the report. He says, I have to have an office in where was it? In the Keys, I think he said. He was in another location, but he said, I have to have a location there, otherwise I'm just an outsider, right? I need to have an address that's local if I want the business that's coming from there. So it's still something that he needs to do.
Yeah, definitely. And even I think even like throughout the state of Minnesota with more virtual hearings, we think, well, you don't have to be in Grand Rapids to, argue some kind of civil motion. But there is still something to be said for knowing your local bench, right? And understanding how things work in your jurisdiction.
Yeah, and if you go to any bar association event, the lawyers will start huddling and talking about, did you hear about, how's it going with Judge so and so? So it gets quite personal.
Right, and very granular. Like, what clerk do you work with for this?
Right. So that those are there are other great resources. Have you ever used the Altman Wheel? I just these are resources I see cited in the news from time to time, and I'll sometimes jump into this website to find their under resources. They've got a surveys and special reports. It's not a super easy thing to search.
And can you get into those? Because historically, Altman Wheel was always priced out of our range. They were super expensive.
Some of them are not available, but some of them you can find. A lot of them are dated, right? You can see quite a few of these, but there's some good nuggets of information here. But they can be expensive. But that's the business that they're in.
But I do feel that Altman Wheel for years was kind of the standard, if you would. I think sometimes law libraries would buy their reports, but like only one report. And they might have been one of those companies that leased the report to you and you had to return it.
Oh, really?
Not sure if they were, though. There were some companies that did that, with that kind of information.
Really?
And it's understandable because that, especially in the old days, it's very hard to gather that kind of information.
Yeah.
And then to compile it and publish it in a way that was useful.
A very hard copy world there. So
yes,
if I understand at least you'd get a copy of it and then you'd have to return it. So it's like a library book, but the fines are like serious.
I'm not sure now that I think about it if Altman Wheel was one of those, but there were some companies who did that.
partner compensation survey I saw cited in a news article last week, maybe. Some Major Lindsay in Africa. Also, I think they do. I'm not super familiar, but I found their series of white papers. I think they do recruiting for. Maybe you're more familiar with this firm.
No, I'm not familiar with them. And then, like, this looks really great, but can you open it up? The partner
I believe you can. Yeah,
compensation
this one.
survey? Oh, okay.
This one, I believe I downloaded. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you have to give away
Sure.
personal information. Right?
Yeah.
Who are you? So, yeah. If you don't mind a little communicating with that, and I actually don't.
Right.
I mean, it's as long as I'm in the industry, I don't mind talking to folks
Sure.
who are trying to sell me something. I like to talk to those folks. Sometimes they don't want to talk to me.
Right.
I'm not a viable customer, but I'm always happy to talk to them.
Is this the survey that that was being promoted on the Law 360 article? There was a
Maybe.
little Law 360 article that came out yesterday or the day before saying 2022 partner compensation surveys out. But even that article on BNA was behind a paywall, so I couldn't get to it. I'm sorry, not BNA, Law 360. Yeah.
Law 360. Yeah. I don't have that's a pricey option. They used to have, I thought, maybe like 5 free articles, sort of like your New York Times.
Right.
No
more.
I don't remember.
Well, remember the Hennepin County Law Library. If you see one of those.
Oh, do you have Law 360 at the?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We do, but now they've added these exclusive Law 360 exclusive or Law 360 Pulse, and those we don't have access to.
Yeah.
But we do. We have a lot of them. A lot of firms use us to take a look at what's really behind those kind of clickbaity headlines that they have.
I have a pretty healthy subscription to Westlaw, but I still wish my office was closer to your office.
Yeah.
It's a quick bus ride, but
it is. Yeah.
I don't have everything yet. Thomson Reuters Institute. I like that. These are also all free articles. These, I don't think you even have to give away your information. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Dynamic report. I think, this one just loads for you. This one's about growing firms. Firms that survived the pandemic successfully. And
yep. So Mike, I'm sure you do this, and I'm sure all our smart listeners do this, but whenever I see one of these industry reports published by a vendor, I always try to remember who's publishing it and what they're choosing to push. As a librarian, I always love it when they say, this report indicates people need to do better research. And I think, but they're doing it because they're selling research products.
Not surprisingly, the growing firms that Clio identified as growing firms had adopted some form of practice management software along with other tools.
Yes, most often from Clio, right? I mean, I always do. I did notice that in one of these Clio trend reports. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I will say it's also data, right? I mean, this report here, I think Thomson Reuters did a similar report. I used to have sort of slides next to one another on this, because the Thomson Reuters Small Firms report was a survey. And if you ask attorneys how much time, they'll say 60% of my day is spent billing.
Right.
And then the report is shocked. Can you believe that only 60% of the day, which is twice as much as what the data says?
I know,
so you ask somebody what they're getting. So I mean, it's still
I did notice in that Thomson one that Thomson Reuters one that you had just opened, that they started out describing the methodology.
Yeah.
And that's not usually a really fun read, but it's really important to understand how they got the data they did. To your very point, Mike, is it self-reported? We all think we're more efficient than we really are.
Yeah. My colleague Joe, I forgot the example he used. If you ask somebody what television they watch, it's always PBS. That's my favorite TV show. So they always rate highly, but really it's ridiculousness or their some reality TV show.
Yep. Well, super interesting.
And they seem to parry, they call this dynamic firms. I think in the Clio, this was what, 2 years ago, 1 year, I can't remember. But they measured dynamic firms is what Thomson Reuters, they call growing firms is what Thomson or Clio called
Clue
their,
sure,
yeah,
yep.
and then static firms, and then they had declining firms also in.
Yeah.
But the other's interesting data too. I mean, I thought one good one was from, and that one was 2 years ago, where they did cold calling, sort of secret shopping
Oh,
with law firms in several
uh-huh.
practice areas, and said, I need this information. I'm a prospective client. Can you
Yeah,
help me?
yeah,
And that was not a good look for the profession.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it's a subjective scoring method.
Right,
They did lay out sort of how they measured. Did they get the information that they needed to take the next step?
right.
Did they get a call back within 24 hours or within an hour? And I think
Sure.
even this year's report notes that, the faster you get a call back, the more likely you're going to get that business.
I'm
That
sure.
your response rate is pretty critical.
Yeah.
They said that oftentimes it was just horrible turnaround time.
Yeah.
Never got information. What was interesting too is that the people that gave the better information was the attorneys.
Mhm.
So I think the attorneys were not empowering their staff in a way
Right.
that enabled them to give meaningful information to their prospective clients.
Right. Right. Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah. Well, and we see that from people who come into the law library
Oh
and
yeah.
say, I want a good attorney, but I called this morning and I haven't heard back. And I think
Oh,
I'll often say, well, it might take a day or two to get a call back, but
oh God.
people are used to kind of instant response. And at a
Yeah.
minimum, if you could tell people, like, we will call you back, but it might not be for a day or two, then at least they have realistic expectations.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what the right approach is there. I mean, if the response rate is critical to having that business, then I
Just
think it
get
was
back to them. Yeah.
Sam Glover, I think, wrote a long time ago about how he used to give that kind of message. I think he'd say, love to get back to you, but I can't. And I think he was promoting these call services like Smith
Oh,
AI
sure.
and
Yep.
Ruby Receptionist, and
Yep.
um, he was a big fan of those folks for a while, and he said it's just a bad look to say I can't talk to you.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and yeah,
Yeah.
but the rates. What's your guess for? Oops, go back. Legal rates calculator.
Oh, you're gonna make me guess?
Let's
You're
play
gonna look
something
at New
tough.
York or
We've got a few
someplace.
minutes left here before the
Yeah.
end of the. Wish I had a random generator. Let's say Michigan.
Oh man.
Non-lawyer rate. Let's see. Do they have securities here? They don't. I'm guessing they don't have a ton of
They
securities.
don't let a non-lawyer touch securities.
Well, I'm guessing. I'm not sure. Clio has a ton or enough. Maybe they do. I don't know. The securities is not listed as a.
Yeah.
Um, well, we were talking immigration. Michigan
Immigration.
immigration attorney. The non-lawyer rate.
Non-lawyer. I don't
What's your
know.
guess? Let's see how close you can get.
No idea.
Wild
Let's
guess.
say wild. Let's say 75.
75. That's exactly what I was going to say. Ooh,
Oh,
48%.
we are way low.
Yeah.
We better get it higher.
So 75, what is the rate then? Average rate is 144
Yeah.
immigration in Michigan.
Yeah. Huh.
So the data is better than the
Right. I mean, which just goes to show when people ask you, just guess, just tell me. I'm like, you don't want me guessing. And here, just confirm that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Don't let Karen speculate.
That's right.
It's always dangerous.
I know many things, but yeah. The average non-lawyer hourly rate for immigration practice in Michigan is not top of mind.
No. If we ever knew it, Mike, we didn't remember it.
Why is Ohio? These are the kinds of things that make you question,
right?
Right? In Ohio, Midwestern state, 338
Yeah.
is the average. It must be.
And you wonder, did they have just low response in Ohio, and there's some practice area, or I guess we limited to a practice area, but maybe one firm that has some highly skilled non-attorneys that charges out at a high rate that really boosted that or something.
So now I'm curious.
What are the lawyers charging?
This better be lower.
Yeah.
41% lower. Yes, it is. It
wow.
is. What's going on in Ohio?
Ohio, holy moly.
486.
But also look at Michigan. It's almost 500.
577. Oh, they got to give a little love to their staff there. If that's the difference. Wow.
Holy moly. Wow.
And then Maine. Yeah, I mean, it could be the pool of data that we have for that state as well, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's so fun to look at these kinds of numbers and think about what they really might mean. What's the story behind them?
Yeah. And that's always the exciting and frustrating thing about the data. It's like the Clio Legal Trends report. Well, utilization rates are going up. But why? What's the
right?
And they did give some clues, with the growing firms, but I'm not sure that explains the whole package there. I'm not sure that's the. This is something I want to do a whole separate topic on too. Maybe I'm maybe pulling in another expert for this one, but I don't know if you've ever done census data.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, this tool looks like it's been updated since I've been in here last, actually. But it's a fun place to look for data, but you kind of need to know what you're doing in this. And I am not super expert in here, but this is a fun. You can search by the industry classification codes.
Right.
For folks who don't know, professional services is 541, legal services is 5411, and then lawyers, as opposed to other legal services, is 54111. And we can add that to our filter and then view a map and filter further for all different kinds of information.
Mike, does this give you hourly rate information, or is this more demographic, like how many lawyers?
It's more demographic. It's like how many. It does give you a breakdown. Let's see if I can get there. I don't know if we'll be able to do it. Let me get to a table here. Do a geographic breakdown. Let's stick with our own state. I don't want to give people the impression that I'm only available in Minnesota, but that's where I'm at. Minnesota. Map there. Table. Oh, there it is. Office of Lawyers. Let's see. So I'm doing this wrong. This is why I need a tutorial. But yesterday I got the breakdown of size. So 0 to 5
sure.
it was 6 to 10. So you do get a breakdown. And I was exploring a little bit just by county, even. And I was thinking about if you could do a little competitive intelligence or a little look at a particular county to see if the demographic makeup, if you were able to put together the proper client persona, who's my ideal client, and do they have a demographic that I can search for in the particular county? Does it, and compare that with how many attorneys are already serving in that area?
Sure. Yeah.
So that we'll have to put that together for another.
Let's do that. See if there's a way to have a little step-by-step to get to that information. In terms of a lot of this is related to like law office management and practice management. So I want to put in a plug for the American Bar Association titles. ABA publishes quite a few kind of readable titles about law office management, and we have most of them here. Tend to be paperback books. Sometimes they're kind of philosophical, and sometimes they're very practical, like being efficient with your billing, titles like that. So that's always a nice thing to dip into when you're thinking about marketing and office management.
Yeah, that's a great resource. I've never been a member of the ABA, but recently I've been thinking about joining. I have not participated in their docket search. This is a good one for like competitive intelligence. I don't know how often maybe you do this at the library. I used to do this at Thompson quite a bit, just to get a feel for where people are practicing and what kind of work they're doing. So you can do this just with a straight up docket search, by searching for the attorney in a particular county, and get see what kind of work they're doing. The nice thing about Westlaw is it does have what they call the key nature of suit, which gives you a state level look at the nature of the case. The nature of suit is available on the federal dockets, so you know what the practice area is. But in this case, you could do a search for even at the state level with their key nature of suit. And
is this full coverage these days, Mike? The dockets on Westlaw?
It's no, I mean you can get
it was selective. Yeah.
It's tough. You don't get a ton of information. You don't get the underlying documents. You get the register of actions. You get the docket basically. And I keep checking back the Minnesota Court Records Online system, and each state is its own thing, right? And that state court docket and the underlying filings are just notoriously hard to get a hold of. So if you wanted to find your competitor's prior work product, say in a motion, that would be very hard to find.
Right.
But you might have access to the register, the docket information itself. And the Minnesota Court Records Online, says don't scrape this data. Right? You're not permitted to do.
Right. That's right. Yeah. So in Minnesota, we do have kind of an advantage over some states in that they are putting those underlying documents up online now. So if you have a recent case and you know enough about what you're looking for, you can often find the underlying documents.
Yeah. I should bring that up, actually, shouldn't I?
But we might want to do a whole separate, that makes it pretty Minnesota specific, but there are tricks to searching.
Yeah, we definitely take a look at the state court record information. Those are just, if that were uniform, there are a lot of vendors out there who would love to have.
That contract. Yeah, for sure.
It's also a little weird to find this information.
Oh my gosh, you have to click like 6 times to get to the search. It's typical kind of government
website, right? And I don't believe our workaround where we do that Google search, I don't believe that works here for this guy.
I don't think it works as well here.
I haven't tried it. I'm not gonna do that here, but then God, I don't even. So then up here you've got to find the.
Right. Then you decide how you're going to search.
And so to a document search, you have to do a case number.
Then you need the docket number. A case search, you can search by party name or by case number.
Or by attorney. So you could do this.
Right. So that's how you could dig in if you wanted actual sample documents. Yeah.
I think everybody knows where to find the bar number, right? That's on the
Minnesota Lawyer Registration website.
Lawyer registration database search.
Yeah. Don't look me up. I let my license lapse, but
you're still in here.
not in the proper way. It says something like, failure to pay or
Oh,
something.
yeah, I know.
Well, I guess I
Yeah,
was supposed to notify him.
well, that's on there, what, the day after, right? That's
Right.
happened to me too, where I'm like, I paid you, right? But the check arrived. Now, fortunately, everything's electronic, but yeah, yeah, be careful what you look for.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, search by ID, or this will give you the number. Yeah, kind of a funky, old-looking website, but it works. It works fine. I forget. You can also order. You can get you can download directly the full list
Oh,
of
wow.
attorneys.
Yep.
It's unworkable. I'm not sure. The data is a little funky. You've got to know a little something about converting date fields to the proper format. You can also purchase a specific subset of this. So if you only want active attorneys, for example, you can order it from the.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It used to be $200. I haven't purchased it in a while.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Let me see if we've got public Tableau. These data services are haven't been in here in a while. Yeah, Tableau is now owned by Salesforce.
It's all data all the time these days, Mike, isn't it?
I know. I've been using a product called Data Studio. I think it's called Looker Studio now. Very cool, very easy to use, and you just connect it with a data sheet. It gives you this Tableau type functionality.
Yeah. And often with these types of websites, we know there'll be some sort of minimal product that's available for free. And then if you get into it and want to do something more sophisticated, they'll sell you some kind of subscription or product. Fair enough. People shouldn't just be giving away their work, I guess.
Let's see, Tableau for everyone. This you can do a lot of this for free. I been here in a while. Don't want to Google around publicly here before I find it, but we did we plotted out all of the attorney locations, so you get all the addresses, right? So we just plotted out. The idea was to identify legal deserts,
right?
Or the way we put it was to find business opportunities, right? Just
right.
So we did a layer of like some of the census data that had economic factors considered, and then layered on the number of attorneys.
Yep.
To say, hey, look, this is a possibility, or the age of attorneys. Give me a second. I'm going to find the thing. Let's see. Tableau public.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good time to be revisiting this kind of information with people who've moved to their second homes out in rural Minnesota.
Yeah.
And are working remotely in the cities, but maybe they can, take a look at the legal environment where they are and pick up clients there as well.
Here's one of them. It's quite dated now. This is actually an earlier version of the product, but attorneys by zip code.
Well, no surprise, the metro area.
Yeah, yeah. The 55402, you get quite a bit. We also did years in practice, so we did a simple look at because the data has the date they were admitted, so we can count approximate age. Sure. And the idea here ultimately was we were going to create this access score as well. We never finished that project, but the idea was to say a couple of things. One was just to identify opportunities for attorneys in outstate Minnesota.
Right.
But what we did do was get the years in practice. So the older counties are the darker ones.
Sure.
So average years in practice, Sibley County, 34 years.
That's an average.
Yeah.
So
the idea here was, hey, look, maybe there's a practice. Nobody's got any capacity, or I should say few people are in a position to be thinking about succession for their law firm.
Right.
So there's opportunity for new attorneys to say, hey, you know what, I might like to be in Cass County. I see that the average years in practice, there are probably some attorneys who might be willing to pass on their practice to me.
Right.
I'm demonstrating willingness to live in the community and serve that community. So.
Right. Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, we were. So we haven't done this in a while, but this is another thing that these data tools are getting really easy to use too. You don't have to be a whiz. I have a whiz. He sits over here.
Right.
I have a math guy who's really good, but
that's true that they are more kind of public facing, these products, and give some good step by step for kind of their canned reports, and sometimes that's just what you need. Oh, this is super. Broadband access, and I would guess that has been changing over the last several years.
Yeah, I'm sure
there's been a concerted effort to.
This one's got a weird. The data, I think we found, my memory is the data is unreliable because I think it's provided by the companies that provide the service. This one's rendering a little funny. But.
Yeah, isn't it though? It's either really big or really small.
But all right, cool. So I will put all these resources in the show notes. Karen, you're awesome. Thank you.
Always great to chat on Friday morning. Yeah.
Have an awesome CLE.
Thank you. I hope you drop in.
Yeah, I might do that actually. I have some things to do.
I suppose.
They require the paper. They require some things are outside of my Westlaw subscription. It makes me upset. But
gosh. All right. Well, very good. Be in touch. Everyone have a nice weekend.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.